Well, it's all happening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea news. Of course, headlines riddled with the names of Mateo Kovacic and Mason Mount and Manuel Ugarte, of which we're going to speak of all three of which. Can I speak English today? Better get it in early. Yes, I've descended into full-blown illness, and you'll have to bear with me, but the news never stops, and I'm here to bring it to you, ladies and gentlemen. I will never stop serving you. If you want to show your appreciation, love and kindness, do consider liking. And you're welcome to subscribe to this channel, Football Therapy, as well. And should you choose to do so, I recommend you hit the bell notifications icon. First off, congratulations to Sevilla winning the Europa League. Boring! I watched that game. I like going to bed early at the moment. What can I say? I'm getting old. I watched that game, stayed up, watched the penalty shootout just for Roma to miss a couple pens. It was so scripted. Commiserations to Mourinho. It would have been a really nice story for him to take Roma to consecutive European titles, and it just would have been nice, you know, the narrative feeding back into it. Still, Sevilla, the game is the game. It's Sevilla's competition in the same way Real Madrid have the Champions League in their DNA, so congratulations to them. Let's talk about Chelsea though, shall we? Chelsea are trying to rebuild their midfield with Mauricio Pochettino target Manuel Ugarte, but there's a PSG spanner in the works. We'll speak about that in just a moment, but let's talk about the big headlines. Mason Mount and Mateo Kovacic, respectively, to different clubs in Manchester. Let's start with Mateo Kovacic. Now, the 29-year-old Croatian technical gifted midfielder is a very good player. Now, he hasn't been playing very good for Chelsea for a little while, but you could argue mitigating circumstances, and of course you could also put this against the later reference Mason Mount, who's also had a poor run of form. The thing is, people are frustrated that it looks like Mateo Kovacic is going to Manchester City, even though this is a story we, of course, have all spoken about weeks ago, but now it looks like it is indeed coming to pass. People are getting frustrated by it, which is fine, you know, people can get frustrated about selling to rivals. Of course, Fabrizio Romano breaking this story as an exclusive initially. Yes, Chelsea are probably going to sell Mateo Kovacic to Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. Off the bat, for the player, you can understand this. He hasn't always started for Chelsea. He's kind of been like the maybe man, largely down to injury. And, you know, for a long time, it was because it was Jorginho and Kante that was starting. There was a good period of Jorginho and Kovacic. But for example, he didn't start the Champions League final. He came off the bench. He's never started a Champions League final, Kovacic, despite featuring in 4 of them in terms of his squad. Anyway, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He is a very good player, very technically gifted, probably the best dribbler we have at our club. And maybe Noli Madueke will sort of challenge that now as an offensive winger. But in terms of moving through midfield and the lines, there is no better than Mateo Kovacic. You know, Ruben up there as well, who's off to Milan. And yes, he'll do very well for Pep Guardiola, and he'll cook under Pep, as the Utes would say, and that might frustrate Chelsea. But ultimately, here's the truth of it. He's 29. He would generate revenue only if he sold within the Premier League. Yes, loads of players would want him, clubs would want him, but the only way we could generate revenue is, say, if, you know, Real Madrid, in their recent pomp, they came in for him, even though obviously they used to own him, they wouldn't buy him back, I don't think. This is the best option for Chelsea. Now, so there you go. Off the bat, money. Secondly, let's address, selling to a rival, making a rival better. Man City aren't a rival. Man City, right now, are stratospheres ahead of us. They're the best club in the world on club football right now, domestically. We need to focus on ourselves. And to focus on ourselves is to generate revenue and is to slim down the squad. So let's talk about slimming down the squad. We want to rebuild the midfield. We'll speak about Ugarte in a little bit. even though Kovacic might be a nice player to have in the squad, he's not going to be a starter. The starter will be Enzo Fernandez in a midfield pivot with a partner, who probably will be Ugarte should we get it over the line. Keep it locked to the end of the video to learn about that. He's on high wages, he's got 12 months left on his deal, we're not going to sign him on a new contract, and if we want to actually make some decent money for him, we've got to sell him within the Premier League, and it's probably only going to be Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. It would be lovely if Bayern Munich came out of nowhere and says, yeah, we'll buy him for 50 million. It's not going to happen. Manchester City weigh £40 million underneath our noses. We go, yeah, that probably works quite a lot. We're going to sell a couple of academy products for pure profit. We want to buy a striker for probably a lot of money. And we can sell Kovacic here. It may be largely in the same way, in the reverse scenario, we bought Raheem Sterling for £47 million. Sterling was a couple of years younger, and he's a forward. Believe it or not, he is. I reckon he will do a lot better under Poch. So that goals cost money. And, you know, if we get 40 million, it's about fair. It's all fair, isn't it? It's all fair selling it within. You know, you could say, well, we're not a rival to City, so they don't mind strengthening us. But ultimately, you can see why Chelsea are going, yeah, all right, you know, and really we should do that too. And of course, from the player perspective, lovely old job, innit? Kovacic would love the opportunity to probably go and win a couple of Premier League titles at Manchester City and play under Guardiola. You know, Kovacic speaks loads of languages. He's a great player in that sense to have in the squad. You probably just speak Spanish to Pep when they're talking tactics. And yeah, best of luck to him, unless he's playing against us, of course. Let me know what you think about Kovacic to Manchester City. It looks like it will actually happen. Of course, keep it locked if you want all developments on these stories by hitting the bell notifications icon. And before we talk about the rebuild of Ugarte, let's talk about the big story in Mason Mount. So this broke yesterday by The Telegraph. I'm actually going to read a little bit from Jacob Steinberg on The Guardian, but it was broken on The Telegraph about Mason Mount agreeing terms to sign with Manchester United. So Manchester United have reached an agreement with personal terms with Mason Mount and are expected to sign the Chelsea midfielder this summer. Chelsea owners do not want to keep players who go into the last year of their contract. That thinking applies to Mount, whose deal expires next year. Chelsea have made no progress with the England international over an extension and are facing the prospect of losing one of their academy stars. United have not agreed a fee for Mount yet. Chelsea are expected to demand at least £60 million for the 21-year-old. Erik ten Hag, United's manager, wants more dynamism in midfield. Well, he absolutely offers that, doesn't he? Athleticism, which Mount's got. Pressing and versatility. That is Mason Mount personified. Pressing, versatility, athleticism, dynamism. That is what Mason Mount is as a player. So Pochettino, Chelsea's new head coach, wants to keep Mason Mount. However, it's understood that several Manchester United players are expecting to be playing alongside Mason Mount next season. So to me, that means a WhatsApp message from Marcus Rashford, from Jadon Sancho, from Luke Shaw, who's quite chummy with Mason Mount, of course a Chelsea fan as well, Luke Shaw. Probably like saying, come over here, mate. You know, they want to love Mason Mount as a player, and they'll probably be like, you just say wage demands, and they'll give it to you. And that's seemingly what's happened. Mason Mount's spoken to Manchester United. They said, how much do you want to get paid? He said, 200k a week. They went, yeah, done. Come up here, mate. Done. That's how you do it. Again, this is not a dig at Todd Boehly. I've gone on record multiple times and endorsed the new wage structure of a basic with incentivized bonuses. I think that's the way forwards, and I think that's actually how you get the best out of players. But despite that, having my cake and eating it too, I would like, please, is making exceptions to that. N'Golo Kante for one. Reece James, another, who's obviously signed a big contract already and got the money that Mount's probably asking for. And Mason Mount, I would love to keep Mason Mount. I think he's excellent, you know, consecutive player of the season. I was WhatsApping my Manchester United friend last night who's not, you know, necessarily sold, and I was like, mate, you'll be getting such a good player Do you know what I mean? Like, for a proper tactical coach who's all about pressing, counter-pressing, whether it's Klopp, Guardiola, of course Thomas Tuchel loved him, and indeed Eric Ten Hag. They'll love him. They'll absolutely love him. This isn't by any means Mason Mount snaking Chelsea. This is... I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Mount has missed out on millions of pounds so far in his Chelsea career. He's between, I think he's like £75,000 a week at Chelsea. Still, he's 24. He's pushing 25. And he's been on 75 grand a week. Ruben Loftus-Cheek has been taking home double that for a long time. A long time. Now, Mason Mount's been one of Chelsea's integral players. I don't need to tell you, but, you know, consecutive Player of the Year awards. Last year, the first player to get over 10 goals and 10 assists in the Premier League since Eden Hazard. You know, the way his demeanour and his professionalism, the face of the club, like his sort of, you know, brand development's really, really good for a club. And really, really versatile, positionally versatile, always available, always fit, and it's just an excellent player. Of course, Champions League winner, of which he greatly contributed to, scoring against Real Madrid in the semi-final, making the goal in the final for Havertz. You know, this is profound legacy. I think he's pushing 40 England caps already. All of this together, this is an excellent player that shouldn't have been earning 75k a week. That as soon as he, you know, maybe that qualified for the Champions League, he should have signed a new deal. To be honest, we should have just signed him a new deal when we did with Reece James. Like, look, you're Champions League winners. You start for Chelsea. You deserve to be on X amount. And Chelsea haven't that offer. For one reason or another, they haven't offered that to Mason Mount. Now, it looks like it's dead in the water and he's going to Manchester United. There's probably a little glimmer of hope to those who would like him to stay. And I know that's a divisive thing. Many people are questioning his dedication, which I think is a bit unfair considering all the things. Many people just don't like him as a player because he's not, you know, like a sexy player in terms of his style, which is fun. Football is a game of opinions. And if he goes, Chelsea will be okay. Chelsea will make a good deal of money from him, and Chelsea will change and rebuild, and we move forwards. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're going to be okay. But there is a chance, because agreeing terms with a club in principle isn't signing a player, ultimately. You know, that is the headlines, that's the headlines we're reacting to. But, you know, if Pochettino has a conversation with him and says, I want you no matter what, you know, do you want to stay at Chelsea? Yes. You know, at the moment, it seems like there's no coming back from the talks, but maybe Pochettino, if he really puts his foot down as the new Chelsea manager, there's a small chance. But personally, I think there's, you know, a 75% chance, 80% chance he goes to Manchester United, which will hurt because, you know, the banners over the shed and, you know, all this, and he doesn't want to go, I don't think, but he needs to get paid what he's worth, ultimately. Anyway, it's kind of sad, but football moves on. Not everyone will always be pleased with football. People have... It's funny, like, although I don't peruse Twitter anymore, on that big account I had, on the active account I had, there was the culture wars between, you know, the Chelsea fans that, like, favoured Mason Mount, which was, like, the proper Chelsea, and then, like, for example, there's many Chelsea fans that wanted Joao Felix to come and be this, even though they're two completely different players. Like, one's a sort of mercurial flair playmaker and one's like a systemic, versatile midfielder. So I don't even know why people had this culture war, but there was a culture war. And then obviously we signed Joao Felix and it looks like Mount's going, but it's just funny because everyone loses. You know, Pochettino's come in and going, I don't want Joao Felix, I want Mason Mount, which is like, everyone's gone, oh no, the Felix, you know, if you preference him, and then Mount's getting sold anyway, so everybody loses. Anyway, we will have a midfield rebuild, so let's move on and talk about that. Alright then, I was going to cite an article, but I pretty much know the main points, so I'm going to just reference those to you now. Chelsea are trying to sign, of course, Manuel Ugarte, who would partner Enzo Fernandez in the midfield. Now, it turns out this is Mauricio Pochettino's preference, which I think we've said on the channel before. Furthermore, he's had telephone conversations with him, it's been reported, to convince him to join the Chelsea project. Now, Ugarte prefers the Premier League to Ligue 1. He wants to play for Chelsea over Paris Saint-Germain. Chelsea have agreed generally the fee to buy him, and I think he broadly accepted the terms of Chelsea. And of course the gaffer wants him and he thinks he's perfect for his midfield rebuild. All sounds good. But the player has just found out that we're offering him £2 million or euros net. And PSG, Qatar state-backed mega club, are offering him 5. So we are offering him essentially 40%. Is that how this works? Maths of what they're offering him. So it's not even like they're offering a bit more, and because he prefers the project and the ambition of playing in the Premier League, he's like, well, I've got to go to the Premier League because that's what I want to do. But they have blown Chelsea's wage packet out of the water. And we're here again, whether it's Mason Mount feeling like, for all he's done for Chelsea and trying to get his value in what his England peers are getting, whether it's Reece James or Raheem Sterling at his own club, or, Rashford and Sancho and people at the club he can go to. Why should he get paid nothing when everyone else gets paid more, when arguably he's been one of the biggest contributors. Ugarte doesn't have that legacy at Chelsea, but he, in terms of feeling valued, well, even though I preferred you guys and I've told your gaffer Pochettino on the phone that I'd like to join you, why are they offering me more than double than you are? Do you not value me? And it's really, really tricky, and I don't have a solution for this because it's easy to go all FIFA career mode or football manager and say, just give them the money, you spend all this money in the transfer market, just give it a little bit more on your targets for the actual transfers, the wages, excuse me. But, again, I can't solve this scenario because I don't know the financial structure and plan in the background, and of course, I've just, like I said, I do endorse the incentivized pay structure method, excuse me. So I'm it's very difficult to say one or the other. It's tough. Anyway, let me know what you think. There's still a great chance we sign Ugarte. We find a middle ground. I can't say as much for Mason Mount, but let me know what you think. I'm very, very keen to read the comments on this one, so please do leave your thoughts down below. Thank you for liking the video and subscribing, and should you choose to do so, hitting the bell. Many of you are subscribed already and have not hit the bell notifications icon, so please do consider doing that. I'm going to rest my ill voice, but keep it locked because as soon as something pops, I will react immediately, and I want to see you here for that. Alright, peace.